welcome. Come on in.
Ever wonder what it's like to work in the apparel and fashion industry in Chicago? How a designer started their brand? Or what a production workroom looks like? Then join us as we go for a visit. Today we're in Westtown visiting our neighbor, Diana Muzzy at Fine Fabric Sales.
My name's Diana Muzzy, the owner of Fine Fabric Sales. I specialize in fine quality fabric for men's, women's, and children's apparel with a specialty in evening and bridal. It's wholesale only and by appointment. My territory is the whole Great Middle West, as someone once called it, and I sell mostly to designers and independent fabric stores when I'm not here working with designers in Chicago. My mom always loved fashion, and she made all her own clothes and my clothes when I was a kid. And then she taught me how to sew. So I guess I got my love of fashion from my mother. But then my brother and I started a manufacturing company for bicycle clothing, which I did for many a year. So I understand the production and, the backside of the garment industry. And when an opportunity came up for me to sell fancy fabrics, I jumped on it. And I've been doing it for 31 years now, and I love every minute of it. I work with such fun, creative people, and it excites me every day. There really is no typical day. My days can involve sitting here all day answering emails, perhaps seeing a customer who calls for an appointment. But I could easily be going out and seeing a customer. I might have to drive for an hour or two to get there and then show them stuff and come back. Or I could be a whole week in Cleveland or St. Louis or Minnesota. But it's always different, and that's what I love about it. I couldn't work a routine. Every day is the same kind of job. I know I would go crazy. So I love this. I guess this is a ritual, but I always run to my computer as early as I wake up after I get my first cup of coffee. And then I answer all my European inquiries because 3 or 4 of the lines that I represent are European. And when they write me, they come in between 3 and 5 in the morning. So if I can answer them at 6, I'll get an answer back from them in that same day instead of having to wait a whole nother day for an answer. And we can almost have a conversation back and forth. And that is so worth the early morning, blurry-eyed, glaring at the computer ritual. Well, I've never counted them all. But there's the janitor hat. There's the bookkeeper hat. There's the sales rep hat. There's the marketing hat. There's the photographer hat. That's just what I can think of right off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more, but normally I get up and, answer my European emails and then have breakfast, go for a walk, come back, take a shower, and start my workday. But lately, I've just been, driven to, I'm putting away 1 million hours just to try to catch up because I do wear the bookkeeper hat now. I don't have help with that anymore. All these different jobs are just catching up, or I'm trying to catch up with them. So right now, I have a terrible work-life balance. The only thing that saves me, so I feel slightly healthy, is that there are stairs. There's a basement, there's a main floor, and there's an upstairs, and I run up and down them all the time. So thank goodness for that. Well, it's actually changed a lot because the first line I started with, they didn't want me carrying any other lines, and I was so new to the industry, I didn't have a clue that other reps did. So all I carried was that one line at first. And I asked them to tell me who were the important clients to make sure that I call on the good ones for, that I don't want to lose them in a list of 600 names that they gave me. But no, everyone is important. So my first couple years were dreadful because I was calling on people who didn't even know who Southwest Fabrics was because they just dropped a business card at a desk and moved on, right? So I discovered that other reps were selling more than one line, and if I drove all the way to Minnesota, I better have more than one line to sell to make it worthwhile. And all of a sudden, my life started getting better. Well, certainly not when I was getting out of college, but once I started selling fabric, I had always wanted a nicer showroom. But when I first moved here, I wasn't sure I was committed to living in Chicago or the Midwest because I came from San Francisco. And it was a bit of a culture shock. But as I stayed and as I was building my business, I got more and more attached to being here and the people that I've met and the friends that I've made. And so then when I bought my house, I bought it with a showroom in mind. It's really nice to be able to have a space to meet clients because, well, for me, I have so much stuff. The advantage of having a spot is that people can come here and it's easier to browse quickly through hanging fabrics than it is to pull them one at a time out of a suitcase. So I think it's to every customer's advantage to come here just to see what all the options are. But other than that, it's what I envisioned. So I'm very happy with this space. Well, I actually got my degree in conservation of natural resources from UC Berkeley. And so that's something that's always been with me, that interest in recycling, being respectful to the planet, and certainly getting rid of plastic. I think I'm happy to see more and more customers being interested in natural fibers and sustainable fabrics and fabrics that do less harm. Even rayon, as wonderful as it can be, the production of it can create a lot of havoc. So I'm happy that more and more customers are requesting organic, sustainable, eco-friendly kinds of fabrics. I tried years and years ago when there first started to be fabric companies out in the world that were all organic or all eco-friendly companies, but everyone that I approached was too small to want to have a fabric rep. And so at this point, I have my hands full with the lines I have now. But fortunately, those companies are also bringing in more eco-friendly fabrics. Oh, I definitely do. Maybe it's just because I've been here for so long. It's probably that as much as anything. But I've always been an active member with the Apparel Industry Board and also with Fashion Group International. There's other groups around too. So I've attended various different events and it helps, you get to know people and then they refer customers to me, which is nice. And I refer customers back. It's definitely nice. It does feel like a family in a way, but it's nice connections. Yeah. I thought it was wonderful when we had an apparel center downtown. And I think it's something that we could have utilized more or better than we did. A lot of the apparel center was just showrooms for garments, but it would be nice to have a place where people like me, would have a showroom there, and then maybe other adjunct businesses that also are part of the industry, like a modeling agency or I don't know, someone who does hair and makeup, and all the different elements that go into our industry if they could all be, if not under the same roof, in a few blocks of each other. It would be nice to have a garment district again. Driving through snowstorms to get to the next customer. Surprisingly, it's not so much the actual selling of fabric or meeting with customers or finding customers. It's getting to them. We have snow in the middle of winter, and I go to Rochester and St. Paul and Minneapolis, and driving through snowstorms and trying to get my car out of a parking lot, or throwing my shoulder out one time trying to load my suitcase while holding an umbrella. Just, it's the physical part of it that you don't think about. It's getting out of my car and pulling my suitcases out and realizing that my car is so dirty from driving just road dirt that the whole front of my clothing is dirt. It's just filthy, dirty. Yeah. So those are the kind of things that surprisingly are more of the challenge of this job. I'd say if you have a dream about what you want to make, go with it. The challenge is finding people to buy your product. And I think if you conceived of it and liked it, there are people out there somewhere who will enjoy it. The challenge is sticking around long enough till you find all those people. So I suppose marketing is a key ingredient to that these days. And I have no skills in that in that area to help anyone, but there are certainly many places where you could find that help. But don't give up. I've seen too many people just give up too soon, and they're talented, wonderful designers. Early on, I used to think the biggest challenge for so many beginning designers is not enough business training ahead of time. And they don't really know, well, it probably was some about where and how to sell, but all the financial decisions that you have to make that have nothing to do with the creative side of your brain. And so maybe for some people that means you find like a partner in your business who has those skills that you don't. So all you have to do is design. But choose carefully, because, that person wants to tell you how to run your business. You have to be compatible with that person. And you both will think really differently, because creative and bookkeeper, or bean counter, I guess is the phrase, different types of people. I'm pretty content with where I am, and I just kind of like to stay doing this. Before COVID, I went to Paris every September for a fabric show there. It's twice a year, but I went once a year. I loved it. I learned so much about color forecasting and trends in the industry. And because I represent some lines that are based in France and England, and I had one in Belgium, I can meet with those people in person, and that makes such a difference. So I miss those connections. Emailing back and forth isn't the same. Being there in person made such a difference. So that's what I hope to have in the coming year or years to follow. So I'd love it for any of you designers that wanted to stop by, but remember, it's by appointment. Give me a call, and I'd love to work with you.
What does work-life balance look like for you?
Are we rolling?
Oh yeah, sure. I'm catching.
I think there was another part of that question.
Oh, I was going to say, is there anything, any other steps you'd like to take to further your career, or any places you'd want to go with your career from here?
I want to go back to Paris. But
I like that. I like that plan. I want to go with you. Do you need an assistant for Paris?
I do.
Oh, we should talk. Is there any lessons or anything that you've picked up along the way?
Probably.
Just to kind of grow up and find yourself as a person in San Francisco. And what was this? You said
The Summer
in the
of
60s? Yeah, yeah.
Free Music in the Park by, Grace Slick, the Grateful
Oh,
Dead.
God. That must have been amazing.
It was.
Oh,
I'm
a little jealous.
I feel really, really lucky that, Jefferson Airplane, they would just sometimes, in the middle of the day for lunch, you could go there and hang out and
Wow.
listen to them play.
That's